say, yay, this black guy was challenging the system and protecting himself, and he's the victim because a white guy was walking down the street with a Confederate flag tied on like it was a cape. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but it's actually not illegal to own or possess or wear it as a cape. For many people, that doesn't represent racism. For them, it represents where they came from. As far as the battle flag that it represents, that's not the Confederate flag. Y'all know that. Anyway, this guy who's got a YouTube channel, he calls himself Uneducated Brother. He has a very unique perspective on it that I agree with. Now, the part where this white guy with the bleach blonde hair is supposedly racist, maybe he is, maybe he ain't, but he isn't the instigator. He wasn't the one starting a fight. If somebody walks down the street wearing a Nazi uniform, are Jews allowed to beat them up? How about homeless people? Are homeless people allowed to beat them up? Hitler went after the Jews too. Just so you know. Not just the homeless. But he went after the homeless and the mentally ill first. So if I see somebody with a swastika, am I allowed to beat them up? Good question, right? What if somebody has been abused by multiple members of the LGBT community? Let's say myself, for example, because that is a very true statement. Most of my abusers growing up were members of the LGBT community, and many of my abusers since have been as well. So to me, the LGBT community, who doesn't stick up for me, tells me that I need to take a back seat because they're more important. They're more important than I am. You look at how many of my sexual abusers came from the LGBT community, you would be genuinely unhappy with the entire community, and you would see the LGBT flag as a Nazi flag. If you had endured what myself and many others endured out here on the streets at the hands of American citizens, police officers, how the term mentally ill is used as a blanket all for anybody who's broke to take anything you want from them whenever you want. And then, of course, rather than doing something about the abuse, you want to send them to therapy and call that help, don't you? This guy is pointing out that the black man in this is the instigator. He's the one who is actively seeking out violence. And this is what we're painting. We are painting that it is okay for a black person to seek out violence against a white person over perceived beliefs. Now, to you, that sign means something different than it means to that person. And maybe that person does have one of those racist mentalities where he thinks it's all right that we still have slavery in the United States. But here's the thing. Does that black man know enough about his history to know that slavery is not history? It's going on today, primarily against disabled, homeless men of every color. The term mentally ill, you have any idea how many people in the jails and prisons are mentally ill? That's their excuse these days, isn't it? They're mentally ill. You get to see one of the things that I talk about often, which is many black folks are taught that everything is a hate crime and a race crime and something contemptuous against them. When a white person uses the N-word, is it the same as when a black person calls one of us a cracker? No, it's not. It's not treated anywhere close to the same. And you know it. We also know that a black man can yell at us and scream at us in public, even smack us, and say, go ahead, hit me, hit me, hit me. Call me the N-word. I know you want to. I dare you. Call me the N-word. I know you want to. You have any idea how many people like that I ran into in the system? Being a white kid, a small white kid. My phone is overheating. When I talk about racism from the black community, as well as that same stupidity that perpetuates the violence. You see how I tried peace, however. This is something that I'm hoping uneducated brother will see. I tried peace to begin with, but I was not heard. Because I'm autistic, because I'm a male, because I'm homeless. Meanwhile, I was forced into homelessness. Nobody bothers to fact check before putting all this stuff out there on the media, on social media, in the news. People pull out little bits and pieces that they want to pretend that I'm a bad person. The cops don't care, I'm homeless. 22% of those killed by the police in 2019, 22% were black out of a population of about 60 million. 96% were males. It's about half of our population of 327 million at the time. Half of our population are male. Only 4% of those killed by police are women. Look at how much BLM is right now having to take a back seat specifically to black females who want to hijack that entire movement now. Just like they're doing with the autism movement, trying to get us rights, while autistic women are trying to say they have it worse than all of us, even though the statistics show otherwise. The arrest records show otherwise. Organized stalking, such as what the Bollingers and their friends and families did. That is frequent and common. And so is a lot of the people that have targeted me because somebody lied to them. These feminist groups that aren't actually feminist groups, they don't care about equality, they're man-hater groups. You pretend that a man might have done something wrong, and there's a lot of man-haters out there that will go out of their way to make that man's life a living hell. On the internet and otherwise. They'll try to destroy his Facebook profile, make fake profiles pretending to be him and being a jerk to people, or spreading slander. Well, I'm a pretty big jerk. I can be a jerk back because it's necessary sometimes. Now that white guy, when he realized that this black dude wasn't going to leave him alone, wasn't going to stop trying to swing at him and fight him and beat him up no matter what, that's when the white guy put his flag down. But before that, when that black guy was doing that stuff to him, the white guy covered up. He covered up. And he stood there. He didn't try to approach. He stood there and took it. As long as it was just words, he was fine with it. When that black guy definitely was not going to let it go. It was over a minute into the video, and this guy was just trying to, cover up. What are you supposed to do? He wasn't looking for a fight, and he wasn't making any aggressive moves. He had a guy swinging at him. Whether that guy is black or white doesn't matter. Obviously, with all the black folks that victimized me growing up, I could easily be a racist. I see the Black Power flag. It is a racist flag. Because black power means exactly what the white power thing means. It's this whole we're superior to you crap. And that's such crap. It's not true. Right now, we have a lot of situations where, like, for example, autism. It does affect men more than women. But us making room for women who are not autistic and having it be different for us than it is for many of them. If you're a autistic adult with parents who care and you got the diagnosis and you have full support and they try to understand you, well, that is absolutely terrific. When your parents are manipulators and drug addicts, that's not how it works out. When you're not a pretty girlie, the cops don't listen, they don't care. Women will tell you that you can't possibly have it bad because you're not being raped right this moment. Black people will tell you can't possibly have been assaulted by a police officer because that's what happens to black people. Hey, you're white, you don't have a reason to bitch. Hey, you're a man, you have no reason to bitch. Hey, you have every advantage in a relationship because you have a penis and make all this money per year more than women do without having to do any work. Really? I'm not able to work. I literally can't take care of myself or my daily needs. Are you kidding? You project all this man-hating onto those of us at the bottom. And your excuse is that people did that to you, so it's okay for you to do it to me. Really? Then it's okay for me to do it back. Oh, no. Wait. If I do it back, then you don't react the way that you tell me to. You freak the fuck out immediately. And that's the point of all of this. You expect me to take an inhumane amount of that bullshit. If I say one of those things to you just once, you will flip your fucking lid. And meanwhile, the only thing I'm attacking is your character. And I'm doing so by telling the truth. I'm also stuck out in public with a disability that is a communication disability. And that communication disability is based on the fact that you expect me to be able to do inhumane things. Things that you're not able to do. You expect me to understand why you can't? Except that you can. You do have the ability to speak. So you would not expect, well, this guy calling himself uneducated brother, he's a black man. And he's actually defending the racist white guy in this thing because the racist white guy is not the aggressor. You can believe whatever the fuck you want to believe. Once you cross the line into harming other people, actually physically harming people, someone needs to get involved. When did the physical harm against me start? When I was dehydrated in Virginia and needed a fucking ambulance. I was dehydrated. But that's not where the first actual assault happened. Where did the first assault against me happen? Well, the first assault against my property happened at the hands of the police against the vehicle I had at the time. But the first assault against me, personally, was as soon as I got back to Boulder. Now that's only according to what's legally assault, because I was being pushed and shoved. I left. I was abused into social isolation. Then you say it's self-imposed. I chose it. You tell me to get away from people who are violent to me. And then you tell me I chose it. You won't help me unless I do what you tell me to do. And you tell me to do expensive things that don't change it. They don't change the fact that I can't see my loved ones and I can't take care of myself. I can't defend myself, and nobody even lets me defend myself against their assumptions in typing. They don't try to understand that I'm stuck in public doing this. I was forced into homelessness, and because I'm homeless, I must be guilty. I was born a man, and because I'm a man, I must be guilty. I was born with Tourette syndrome, so I must be mentally ill and a druggie, and I must be guilty. Because you've assumed. You have assumed. You have assumed. I don't agree with everything that this guy said, but I agree with most of it. The couple of parts that I disagree with, well, first of all, he and I both see eye to eye on what the flag represents. It is a racist flag, and somebody walking around with it definitely is going to get them picked out of a crowd as a racist. Primarily because it does hold that racist connotation to so many people. So it is inviting attention to yourself, and likely negative attention. However, channeling your hatred into physical abuse against another person. How much you want to bet that black man, if he got kids, he tells his kids just look the other way? Like, just ignore them, they'll stop. How much you want to bet he's gotten violent in front of his kids if he has them, after saying something like that? Meanwhile, I've had a lot of friends from the LGBT community that completely dismissed me. Horribly so. Because they're a part of the LGBT community. They're more important than I am. Their problems are greater than mine. They must be, because I'm not LGBT. Meanwhile, they don't look at all of the abuse that I take from the heterosexual community or the LGBT community, or how much I've had to endure in my life, or how I, because of my skin color, am expected to pretend that I am nothing else but perfect. Oh, Sean's a white guy, so because he's a white guy, he can't have back injuries. Because he's a white guy who couldn't possibly have been assaulted by the police. Because he's a white guy. Because he's a white guy. There's all sorts of pro bono lawyers that are going to help him out, not without a friend or family member who cares, stupid. That's the problem. I don't matter to anyone. You show that you care about somebody by how much you are willing to listen. When you're talking, you're not listening. And when someone is in a state of crisis, talking over them will only make it worse. Now, that guy with the Confederate flag on, obviously that was not something that y'all think is socially acceptable. Well, there's a lot of people who think that the LGBT flag is not socially acceptable. You think most Christians in this country, with their anti-LGBT stuff for all these years, do you really think that they want to see the LGBT flag going down the street? How about that woman whose little boy was raped by a clergy member? Do you think she wants to go to church or go to a pride? Nah, she don't. And there's a reason for it. Her experiences give her valid reason. And my experiences give me just as valid a reason. Now, I fight for the LGBT community for a reason. Because I think that their rights should be my rights. But their rights are more likely to be observed. It used to be that you could shut down homosexuals by calling homosexuality a mental illness. One of the people who started Autism Speaks, you know what he did? Well, there was two people that he focused on, homosexuals and autistic people. And here's what he did with them. He put them in specialized facilities where they were abused into pretending that they weren't autistic and pretending that they weren't gay. This is what electric shock does to a person. This is what beatings do to a person. This is what social isolation does to a person. You will be abused until you conform. Now, obviously, you can't do that to gay people, so that got shut down, and then they started getting rights because they're not called mentally ill anymore. But that never stopped with those of us who are autistic. And Autism Speaks does more to fan the flames of horrid atrocities towards us than they have ever done to help us. And as far as curing us, no, you need to drop that now. We are here, we exist. We are human beings, whether we are the perfect whatever you want us to be or not. Nobody gets a perfect kid. That's the dead one. I understand that that flag for many people represents oppression. I don't support the South and the Civil War at all. But I don't support either side after the Civil War. The 13th Amendment made slavery legal for anyone who's poor and easily railroaded. That includes people who are called mentally ill, minorities, men. It's not just incarceration rates. We've taught women that they can get away with doing these things. We've taught black people they can get away with doing these things, that it's magically not a crime for them. That racist old guy who wanted to call me the N-word, and he's recorded on my channel calling me that repeatedly. I asked the police if it was legal for me to beat him up for calling me that. No, it's not. Apparently, it's not against the law to call somebody else the N-word. But if I was to beat somebody up for it, I'd go to jail. That black man didn't hear the N-word. He saw a flag and got hateful. Made an assumption and instigated violence. Now it would be different if that white guy had called the black guy something racist. Or if he had started throwing punches. But you could see what that black man was doing. First he did the pump fake. And that's what got that white man defensive. And he put his hands up and he didn't move. It's not like he was running in and charging the guy. The black man in that video, I'm surprised he wasn't screaming, "Call me the N-word, I dare you, call me the N-word." Meanwhile, uneducated brother used the N-word plenty throughout the entire video, which, well, I don't use the N-word. But when I tell you all the stories of what I had to go through in the system with a lot of black kids, a lot of Asian kids, a lot of Hispanic kids, and in some places a lot of Native kids. And each and every one of these groups are taught that it's white man's fault, white man's fault, white man's fault, and there's a white boy and he's smaller than the rest of you. What are you going to do? You wonder why I still stuck up for minorities. It's because I've been the fucking minority most of my life. You think it was any easier in Chapel, Nebraska being autistic and having Tourette syndrome? Sticking up for homosexuals and black people in Chapel, Nebraska? That did not make me fucking popular. And because I ain't good looking and I'm different, people just project their assumptions onto me. Oh, he's going to be a killer. He's going to be a rapist. He's going to be a murderer. Oh, just wait. He's going to walk into a post office and kill 30 people. Just watch. Just watch. Fuck you. My body count is 0, motherfuckers. 42 years of age, and I've literally killed nobody. "42 years of age, and I have been the target of more sexism and more racism and more hatred than you can possibly imagine.